Hello, it's Sonia here with The Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. Today we are going to be crocheting an ear warmer. So to do this project, I am going to be using an eye hook or a 5.5 millimeter, and I'm going to be using worsted weight yarn. So I've already gotten started a little bit. Now with this project, you can customize this to fit any head size. And you can also use, pretty much a variety of yarns or hook sizes. So I don't want to say you could use any yarn or any size hook, but if you wanted to use decate weight yarn, which is a little bit lighter weight than, worsted weight, you could certainly do that. You just want to match your hook size to the yarn you're using. You could certainly use this pattern to make using Aran weight yarn or even bulkier yarn. I wouldn't really recommend using super lightweight yarn because this is an ear warmer or a headband to be worn outside when it's cold. So you want to make sure that it's warm enough to keep you warm. So what you're going to want to do to get started, and I've already started, is you want to work a chain, and you want to work an even number, and you want to make sure the chain fits around your head. You don't want it to be too loose, but you don't want it to be too tight, just so that it's a slip-on, so there's no buttons, snaps, ties, or anything with this project. So you'll just be able to slip it on, and you want it to be comfortable enough and snug enough that it's not going to be sliding all over the place, but again not so tight that you don't want to wear it. So I have crocheted 70 chains, and I'm using my eye hook. I do have a slightly smaller head, so this might not fit a different person, it just depends. Everybody's different, but 70 might work for you. So what we're going to do to get started is we will be working in the back bump, and we're going to work a single crochet in the back bump in the second chain from our hook. So here's my first chain, my second chain. I'm just going to turn it over, and there's my back bump, and I am going to work my single crochet. And I'm going to continue to single crochet all the way down my chain, and I will have a total of 69 single crochet. So you're going to want to have an odd number of single crochets. That's why I say chain an even number. So if you chained 80, you would have 79 single crochet. 58, you would have 57. You get the idea. So I'm going to continue working my single crochet all the way across my chain, and I will meet you back. Okay, so I have worked my first row of single crochet in the back bump, and the reason why we're working in the back bump is because we are going to want both ends to look the same. So when you're done your ear warmer, your first row, or it's actually going to be a round, is going to look the same as the last. So it's a nice little trick there. So now we are going to turn this guy into a circle. So I'm just going to get my first stitch here, and we are going to work round 2. So technically we already worked round 1. So now we're going to work round 2 by just working a single crochet in the first stitch. So what you're going to want to do is you want to mark your last stitch, because we will work in continuous rounds, so that means we are not joining with a slip stitch, because we want it to look as seamless as we can, because we're wearing it on our head. And I just think I don't always like seeing a seam on things. It just kind of bothers me, so I try to avoid it if I can, or come up with a way to kind of make it seamless. Doesn't always work, but we're going to give it a shot. Okay, so we worked a single crochet in that first stitch there. And I do have 69, so you want to make sure you have an odd number. And I'm just going to continue to single crochet around for round 2. And the reason why we mark our last stitch, I'm just using a scrap piece of yarn. You certainly can use stitch markers or whatever you have on hand to mark a stitch, because it might be tricky to figure out when your first stitch starts or your last stitch ends. So I'm going to continue to single crochet around for round 2, and I will meet you back. Alright, so I have finished up round 2. So I placed my stitch marker in my last stitch. Now we're going to get ready for round 3. So round 3, we are going to work a half double crochet in our first stitch, and again we are not joining. So there's our half double crochet. In our next stitch we are working a slip stitch, and just make sure that you don't stitch it too tightly. And you're going to continue that around, so half double crochet, slip stitch, all the way around. So pretty quick stitch pattern there. So I'm going to continue working my half double crochet slip stitch all the way around, and I'll meet you back. Alright, so I have finished up round 3 of my half double crochet slip stitch, half double crochet slip stitch all the way around. So my last stitch is a half double crochet. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ready for round 4. So for round 4, in each half double crochet we are going to be working in the 3rd loop. So if you've never done that before, let's take a peek at the stitch here. And I do have a Stitch of the Week tutorial of this as well that I can link below if you want to see more examples of half double crochet in the 3rd loop. I think it's also called the camel stitch, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But anyway, so here's our half double crochet stitch. If you look at it, here's the top of the stitch here. So you have your front loop. There's your front loop, there's your back loop. Now if you turn it this way, here's another loop. Here's the 3rd loop right there. So we're going to be working in the 3rd loop in all of our half double crochet stitches for the remainder of this pattern. So in each half double crochet stitch in the 3rd loop, you're going to work a slip stitch. And again, don't work it too tightly. So there's our slip stitch. So here we are with our 2nd stitch. This is our slip stitch, and I tried to be relaxed. So here's the top of the stitch. We're working a half double crochet in the slip stitch. So in each slip stitch you're working a half double crochet. In each half double crochet you're working in the 3rd loop a slip stitch. So here's the next stitch is a half double crochet. I'm turning it. There's my 3rd loop. Now the 3rd loop can kind of sag a little bit with this stitch. As you can see, it's almost diagonal or slanted, I guess is a better way to describe it. But that's our 3rd loop there, and you're just going to work your slip stitch in there. Our next stitch is a slip stitch, and we're going to half double crochet in that slip stitch. And this is going to be for the remainder of the pattern. So here is a half double crochet is our next stitch. Turning it over, you can see that 3rd loop right there. That's the 3rd loop. You're working your slip stitch. So half double crochet in the next stitch. So once you get the idea, it works up pretty quickly. So here we go. There is that 3rd loop, and working our slip stitch in that 3rd loop. So single or slip stitch, half double crochet all the way around. See, there's that 3rd loop. She's really slanted down there, but there it is. And we're going to work in it, and then half double crochet in the slip stitch. So I'm going to continue this all the way around for round 4, and I will meet you back. Okay, so I'm almost done round 4. So round 4, our final stitch is, this is a half double crochet, so we're working a slip stitch and turning that guy over. There's our 3rd loop, and working the slip stitch in that 3rd loop. And I'm just going to mark that stitch. And we're going to get ready for round 5. So round 5, we are going to be working a half double crochet in our slip stitch here. So this is a slip stitch right here. So we're working a half double crochet right on top of that guy. And our next stitch is a half double crochet, so we're slip stitching in the 3rd loop. So turning it over, and half double crochet in the slip stitch. Whoops. work in both loops, not just the one front loop. And here's our half double crochet, so there's that third loop, popping in the slip stitch. So it just creates a really fun textured stitch. And we're just going to repeat this all the way around. Now, what you're going to do for your ear warmer is you're going to repeat rows 4 and 5 for however wide you want your ear warmer. So, you know, if you just wanted to make a thin little headband, you could certainly do that. So you're going to repeat rows 4 and 5 for however wide you want it. And then your final, or not rows, rounds, I'm sorry, these are rounds. So your final 2 rounds are going to be single crochet so that it matches, you know, the first 2. So just repeat rounds 4 and 5 for however wide you want your ear warmer, and then your last 2 rounds are going to be single crochet rounds. And then in your last stitch, then you will join in the first one with a slip stitch to finish it off. So as you can see, I mean, it looks pretty seamless there. That's why we have the stitch marker. So just repeat rounds 4 and 5. Sorry, keep saying rows. So every time you have come across a half double crochet stitch, you're going to work a slip stitch. Every time you see a slip stitch, you'll work a half double crochet. And make sure when you do work your slip stitches and your half double crochet, you're always working in the third loop. So I'm going to continue around for a couple more rounds, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so as you can see here, I have finished up my ear warmer except for weaving in my ends. So what I ended up doing was I repeated rows 4 and 5 up to row 15. So these are my first 2, or not rows, I keep saying rows, rounds. So I worked my first 2 single crochet rounds, then round 3, and then rounds 4 and 5, and then you just continue to repeat rounds 4 and 5. So I worked up to round 15, and it doesn't matter if you end on a round 5 or a round 4. And then my last 2 rounds, and I still worked in continuous rounds, I worked 2 single crochet rounds, and then I joined with a slip stitch in my first stitch at the end of round 17. So you can make your ear warmer as wide or narrow as you would like. And then after you're done, you will weave in your ends. So you can see you have a little gap here, so you'll just take your yarn. I'm just going to take my yarn needle, and I'm just going to cinch that guy up and weave in that end, and then up here. So as you can see, it's pretty seamless here, which is what I want. This is technically the wrong, or not the wrong side, this is the wrong side, but this is the area where, you know, where one round started and one round ended, and you really can't tell. I mean, a little bit here and a little bit there, but it's pretty seamless, which is what my goal was. And then here would be the front side. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and I thank you so much for watching.